자, 마지막 날 부산 스테이지 오늘 힘차게 시작을 해볼까 합니다. 그 첫 번째 포문을 열어볼 분을 모셔볼까 하는데요. 자, 오늘 주제는 개발자, 기술 세션, 웹3, 그리고 NFT를 주제로 할까 합니다. 자, 그럼 기다리지 않고 저희 첫 번째 연사분 모셔보도록 할까요? 오늘 처음으로 발표해 주실 분은요, 바로 하이퍼레저 파운데이션의 President of 아시아 퍼시픽의 줄리안 고든 님이 준비하고 계신다고 합니다. 오늘 줄리안 고든 님께서 준비하신 강연의 주제는요, 하이퍼레저 파운데이션 and Open Source Building the Future with Blockchain Technologies를 주제로 준비를 해 주셨다고 하는데요. 자, 그럼 여러분 줄리안 고든 님을 큰 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So it's great to see such a crowd early on in the morning. So I am Julian Gordon. I am, as it says there, the Vice President for the Hyperledger Foundation and also the Open Source Security Foundation which is part of the Hyperledger, part of the Linux Foundation. So I'm very happy to be there. It's great to be back in Busan. I've spent many of the last 30 years flying back and forth to Seoul. I'm actually based and I live in Hong Kong, but I've never been to Busan before, so this is a real treat. So thank you to the Busan government, thank you for Medium, our member, and everyone else involved in getting us here today. So today I'm going to speak about Hyperledger Foundation and specifically about open source and building the future with blockchain technologies. I'm going to split this, I realize there's translation, so I'll slow down my speech. So there are 4 different parts I'll go on today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Hyperledger Foundation, who we are, what we are, and most importantly, why we are. And then I'm going to look a bit at the vision, and that's ultimately about the technology. And then I'm going to look at some case studies, and then I'll look about how because we are a collaborative community, can get involved in the Hyperledger Foundation. So let me go. I'll get into talking a little about the foundation. So the Hyperledger Foundation, and by the way, we became a foundation this year. Before we were just a project within the Linux Foundation. We're now a full-blown foundation, and that's because we've grown so much. We have so many components. We are considered a foundation. So we are a global, cross-industry consortium of communities collaborating and advancing business blockchain technologies. And those communities come from around the world. I think we're in most parts of the world, definitely. A lot here in Korea, in Asia Pacific, I work, and nearly every country has some kind of collaborative community within the Hyperledger Foundation. And about business block technologies, we're going to look at those specifically, the business block technologies that we develop. I say we as a community develop. So we are an open source, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second. We are a non-for-profit, and we're accelerating the development of adoption of business blockchain technologies. And the way to do that is open source. Open source is the way that software is developed today. 90% of software on any new application is open source. So we're doing that, and we are the trusted, I think very much a trusted source within the Linux Foundation for doing that. And the reason we're trusted by business, by enterprises, is firstly we are hosted by the Linux Foundation, which has a deep experience from Linux to Kubernetes to a plethora of different infrastructure projects which we host at the Linux Foundation, which, I can give you numbers, there's, like Linux, a kernel, 70–90% of the world's compute runs on that. And it's really down to the governance and technical communities that the Linux Foundation host. We're neutral and collaborative. We're open, always open to anyone who participates. So anybody here, and diversity is our strength. So we have a highly diverse community. We produce open source technologies, as I said, and we are immune to any commercial interest of any single one company. We're a collaboration of multiple different companies working together, different individuals, also including governments and others developing this technology. And we are producing industry-standard blockchains, business for business. That is what I'm going to show you in a minute as well. So I just want to reiterate, and I can never say this enough, open source development is essential for blockchain development. Blockchain is an emerging, innovative technology. It needs to be not tied down to one IT department. It needs to be used a community development. That's how we have developed stuff. It's not just one IT department, but it's a community that are developing it. Things like Fabric, developed by many, many, many different companies who develop, and many, many contributors who develop that. And it's very hard to keep any other technology to keep up with that. We also work on Darwin, right? So, not all projects will survive in that environment. So open source is key. As I said, 90% of any application today has open source code in it. So for the Hyperledger, we are 100% open, our technical community. It's never play to play with Hyperledger. You can participate as an individual, as a company. Our collaborative approach ensures transparency and the longevity required. So if someone uses this technology, they know it's going to be here for the future. It's developed in a collaborative tool, a collaborative way. And we're led, as I said, by a diverse group of technical developers and contributors. And the way that we work is we call it a duocracy. Those who contribute the code, those who get involved, are those who make the decisions. We actually have a technical oversight committee who manages the projects, and they are elected by the contributors to the code. So we are truly open source, we have a technical meritocracy, and we are vendor neutral. So let's look at the vision. So the vision for Hyperledger is quite simple. We were going to use the strength of an open source community hosted by the Linux Foundation to develop ecosystems and codes and projects that would proliferate around the planet and help accelerate the development of blockchain technologies. And I think we'd pretty well say that we have succeeded in that. These are some of the projects. These are our key. We have different levels of projects. These are our main projects. We have 6 that have graduated, and I will go those in detail in a minute. We have Besu and Fabric. Fabric, I think, probably the number one, clearly the number one permission blockchain on the planet. Besu is one of the top Ethereum clients, execute clients. It's in the top list there. Indy is very much, and I'll talk a little about identity, self-sovereign identity, which that is. Aroa is another project developed originally out of Japan and is used for multiple different projects. And when I talk a little bit about CBDCs in a minute, we'll talk about some of the stuff that Aroa's done. Sawtooth, there's many cases for that as well, including something called Bondi Valley, which I'll also talk about, and Aries as well, which has the wallet and other infrastructure required for identity. And then we have a plethora of other projects. Bevel, which came out of Accenture, and I think Fujitsu, and that is a tool that helps you accelerate. It's an abstraction to help you develop platforms quickly. Cactus and Caliper is a benchmarking tool. We've got Cello, Firefly, I'll go through, Grid. I'm not going to go through all these today, actually. Ursa is a cryptography tool. And we have Solang, which is a brand new EVM compiler, which you can go and have a look at that. That's just been contributed. Actually, it came out of our project Burrow, which isn't there, which was one of our original Ethereum tools. So we have a lot of Ethereum technology as well within that. So that's our project landscape. You can see that all on our wiki. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. This is why it happens. So you can see that we have 39,000 contributors. We've had over 1 million contributions. We've had 132,000 commits, and we have 271 repositories. We have a very rich array of of goods that we have within our community. And in this is also our members. So these are the people who help us continue and keep the lights on and grow in the way we are. So that we have people like Accenture, DTCC, Fujitsu, IBM, and we have, like here in Korea, we have Medium, and we have a long list of companies globally. We also have non-profits. We have some of the top universities, Cambridge, MIT. There's a whole list of universities that are also involved. We also have people like the Monetary Authority of Singapore, the Bank of England, and we have a really broad range. And in China, people like CAICT, we work with the Chinese government, we work with the US government, we work with governments around the world in helping push forward blockchain in a collaborative fashion to make it possible for people to then use that technology, and then for governments, people, commerce, to get the benefits of blockchain technology for all of us. So let's start with Hyperledger Fabric. Hyperledger Fabric, I think hopefully most people here know what Hyperledger Fabric is. It is a permissioned blockchain. It is the #1 permissioned blockchain. Actually, I went to the Busan city in the exhibition here, in their stall. I think they had hosted, 6 different companies. 5 of those were using Hyperledger Fabric. And actually here in Busan, we also have Medium, who have deep expertise in this. But this is the #1 project used for, and I'm going to go through the use cases, a lot of these around this Hyperledger Fabric. We have Besu. So this is our Ethereum client. This was contributed by Consensus, I think now 2 years ago, and it's stormed up the list to be one of the top execution clients within the Ethereum network. The interesting thing, so actually, they actually brand it as people can. They can take our technology. It is Apache version 2. We have lots of people taking forks, doing their own things with it, which is all very legitimate because we are an Apache 2 license. It's used by many, many people, even under other names, right? But the interesting thing about Besu is that it can be used under, it implements the EEA, so the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance specification, so it can be used in a permissioned way within the Ethereum network, and also it connects to the mainnet. So it gives you that duplicity of options, which is great for hybrid and great for things. There's many DAOs that run on this. I was talking to somebody yesterday who's running a DAO using Besu. It's run on multiple of the CBDCs, which I'll talk about later, and it's obviously helping drive a lot of the Web3 kind of activity that is happening out there. So Besu, please look at it. Of course, it's got Solidity. It also has several pluggable consensus algorithms. Like many of our projects are very modular, so you can use POW, POA, IBFT, and many different permissioning schemes. So it's a very flexible, very much like Hyperledger Fabric, which is modular, and you can tailor it to your specific use. And I'd like to iterate again. People get confused because we're in this place where we have many people running chains. We don't run a chain. We develop the technology that other people used to write anything from a most permission chain to a highly permissionless chains, such as using Hyperledger Besu. So we run the whole mirror, and obviously a lot of people run hybrid technologies as well. Interoperability, this is another area that's gaining strength. I remember I first talked about interoperability in 2016, which was a bit early because people hadn't even put up initial chains by then, but this is coming of age now. So how do you work amongst multiple different chains without a fact that we are going to live in a world of chains? There's not going to be one chain. It's a multiplicity of chains. So we have 2 projects here, Cacti, which has a plugin-based framework, which enables interoperability, enables atomic swaps at a lower level. So there's Cactus, which is now called Cacti. We've merged it with another project called Weaver, which is contributed by IBM. Have a look at that. There's a bunch of new announcements we're doing around that. Firefly is a very interesting project as well. That works at the application layer. It's kind of like the API of APIs, and that connects into multiple networks, into multiple different projects in the permission world, as well as in the the public. We have this, if you read recently, this Web3 gateway mode on it. It works with Ethereum, Polygon, Solana, and there's a whole list of public networks that it's working with, which will be added to. So this Firefly has the ability for you to do a workflow at the higher level and then at the application level and connect to multiple different blockchain networks that you may need in your workflow. So that is a very interesting, I think, as we all know in computing, it's an abstraction. You know, we started with bits and bytes, so we abstract at a higher level to make it easier and more efficient for people to use a technology. So I think Firefly is a great abstraction where you can be looking at the application level rather than going deep down into the consensus mechanisms and the whole blockchain network. We also have labs, so if anybody has any project that they want to develop within the Hyperledger world, and we are famous for having a very vibrant community, you can come and do a Hyperledger lab. We have about 50. We have obviously there's a gate to get into it, but we can come, if there's anything you want to come to us, come to the community, and if you want something developed that's something that's associated with Hyperledger or something that's new and different within the blockchain or distributed technologies, you can come and develop that within our areas, which we call Hyperledger Labs. And a lot of the projects you saw actually started as labs and then became full projects up to our main project level. All right, so that's the technology. I've covered it very briefly. I'm trying to cover everything today in the short time I have. But if you need more on technology, you can always come to me, wiki.hyperledger.org, where everything is. We also have a Discord channel where you can go and talk directly to developers and the community. So adoption and use cases. So adoption, we're clearly the number one, especially in large enterprises. This is from block data. Out of the 30 technologies, Hyperledger is the most preferred DLT by the top 100 by block data, and you can see 26. So these are all the large organizations, and you can then see within the 18 Ethereum, a lot of that may also be Besu. So we have a very, very strong adoption within especially the enterprise space. And a lot of that is actually in production today. So, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Forbes 50 is another one that looks at companies that are over $1 billion. We, I think, are pretty well number one there as well. And these are some of the kind of case studies that we have and the kind of companies that are shown to use Hyperledger technologies. So we have things like BHP, you see there. BHP are working on iron ore and tracking iron ore, right, with one of our members. We have Maersk. I'm going to talk a little bit about TradeLens. Tech Mahindra run one of the largest, probably one of the largest kind of permission networks, and that's managing spam calls in India. So that connects with the regulator, connects all the telco mobile providers, and it helps track, because they don't want to share the personal data, right, but they want to share the information around who is a spam caller, so they can eradicate spam callers, which is, you know, billions of kind of calls of items in that, and Walmart and others. So I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about this. So let's look at by function, and this is actually from a PwC report. You see on the left, the blue, we have this is the PwC report, estimate by 2030 that we'll see within the payments a boost to global GDP of about 433 billion by blockchain being within the payments space. Basically, because of the ability for immutability and for instant settlement, which I spent a lot of my early life developing banking and trading and settlement systems. That ability to do immediate settlement, no need for reconciliation, the ability for fractionalization. These are all things that will make the infrastructure that exists today, and obviously the whole new DeFi and other structures, so much more efficient, so much more effective for financial services, hopefully more transparent as well. So it'll just improve the way the financial markets exist today to help us and the communities, etc. And I'm going to look at CBDCs as well. So these are top two ones here. We've got GSBN, which is the Global Shipping Business Network, and we have TradeLens. They're in the space of trade finance. Trade finance is the financing of the supply chain. We all know there's problems with supply chains, letters of credit, paper systems. So that's what they're working on. GSBN, based in Hong Kong, has 1 in 3 of the containers in the worldwide from its members, and 300 organizations, and it's built on Hyperledger Fabric. Very interesting. We're actually going to come up with a story around that soon, a whole in-depth about it. But basically, it allows, I think one of the interesting from a technical perspective, it has nodes in China and outside China with the different cryptography requirements in each of those on different, and they actually run on different, like AWS, on Tencent, on different cloud providers. So just a very interesting from a technical and also from a business perspective. Some amazing projects. Look at what they've done in Shanghai. Go and look at GSBN. TradeLens, very famous. They have 300 organizations with 600 ports and terminals. It's already tracked 42 million containers, shipments, and close to 22.2 billion events, and roughly 20 billion published documents, and that's all on Hyperledger Fabric. Very well documented. Go and have a look at that. It's one of the cases, right? And that's been going and growing, and it's being used for commercial purposes, right, today, and has been for a long time. And there's lots of other things. The China Construction Bank has a network as well, which has extended letters of credit, billions of dollars of that done in networks in China. Bank of Cambodia. So let's look at I'm looking at the time. We have CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. I think everyone here should know what a central bank digital currency, but if you look at the world of kind of payments or currencies or tokens or whatever you like to call it in the kind of payment currency space, I think you have cryptocurrency, which I think in this conference everyone's very aware. Second, I think you have stable coins. And then thirdly, you have CBDCs. CBDCs are in many different forms, but they're fiat currency issued by a central bank, and there's different ways they can issue it directly or through a commercial bank on different structures, but that is a CBDC. So as I have a short amount of time today, I'm going to cover just a few. Bank of Cambodia been going, actually this is kind of what they call a pseudo CBDC because it has as a digital double. It's not exactly a full-out CBDC, but it's been used to bank the unbanked. Very successful in Cambodia. It's been going for 2-3 years. It runs on Aroa, which I mentioned earlier, and it's built on, with Soromitsu, one of our members. Great use case, and it's around retail CBDCs. Which is great. Eastern Caribbean Bank was launched live, and it's called Dcash. We have today it was the one, or was it yesterday? It was the 1-year anniversary of the Inyara, which is the Nigerian CBDC, and that also runs on Fabric. The Bank of Thailand and actually BIS, Bank of International Settlement. If you want to know more about CBDCs, go to the Bank of International Settlements. They have done some great POCs around wholesale, around what they call MCBDCs, which is a cross-border transactions, and they've done that in the retail CBDC. And most of those will run on some kind of either Besu or Hyperledger Fabric, and also other great technologies out there that exist in that space. Quick, go and have a look at CBDCs. I think 80% of central banks are either looking at, have launched or writing POCs, and also many other organizations are looking at proof of concepts, and we have many of them in all 3 sectors, from wholesale to retail to multi-CBDCs. And also, go to our website. We have a whole ebook which explains and gives you through those case studies, and that's kind of a living document. Provenance and supply chain, how do we, and I think this has happened since the beginning, 2016, I remember tracking apples in Guilin. So, it's been done since the beginning. First case studies actually were by Walmart. Walmart was very successful, and I think everyone knows the mango story, but Walmart has now increased that ability. That's around things like food safety, I think, is their #1 aim, but they're doing a lot of other things. Circular is tracking things like, predominantly from Rwanda, the rare minerals that go in your phone, things like cobalt, and that's been tracking for a long time to make sure, one, that the cobalt comes from a safe place, and also to make sure that we can track it, create greater efficiencies in the supply chain. And that it has customers like Volvo, et cetera, who are using that to track. Zulig Pharma, in this part of the world, tracking the pharmaceuticals that you need for, I think they do all the vaccinations in this part of the world, Zugli Pharma, and they're based out of Singapore. So provenance was one of the first use cases, and it's just getting deeper and deeper and deeper, creating more efficient supply chains, creating better food trust of the goods, and helping supply chains, which are as we know, are having a troubled time at this present moment post-COVID. Identity, I'm not going to go into identity because I'm literally running out of time, but go to our website. We have a lot of stuff around identity, self-sovereign identity. These are some of the examples. So a credit union and its members in the US. I have a travel pass for COVID-19 tests, and that uses Hyperledger Indian Aries. And we have other things. A very famous case is in Canada, where we are using, again, Indies and Aries with about helping track certificates, so governments can give those to corporates, so corporates can manage their certificates, whether that be a health and safety certificate or other things. And there's a great case study that you can go and read about that. So if you want to know more about identity, you can do that in there, or get involved in the project. Go and ask, go and get on our discourse. We're also NFTs and metaverse. We're not into it. I say we are into it, but the technology is into it, so people are using that technology. If you look at Medium, they're doing some very cool stuff in the metaverse around financial services, plus in terms of e-commerce and other areas. So go and look at their booth here today. A lot of very cool stuff. This is an example we're doing in the US with Palm. But there is a large number of people using NFTs. I think we all know about that. I would like to talk a little bit about Medium, who are our member here in Korea. Please do go and look at their booth. They are a very talented company. They're a Hyperledger member. They have a lot of depth of experience in our technology, and they are working. If you look at their booth, they work on the metaverse, and they have some very interesting for metaverse, but they're also working on different. They have a project around the Mint here. They have a lot of very interesting projects that you can go and talk to about Medium. Very broad expertise. But the thing that I would like to point out is they have this thing called MDL. MDL is what they call their Medium distributed ledger. They've taken Fabric, and they have basically souped it up. So a high-performance enterprise blockchain, which is based on Hyperledger Fabric. And the interesting thing is it can do up to 15,000 TPS, transaction per second, and that's being checked on Caliper. And I think in other instances they can do even more they talk about. So please, if you want to know more about this, you can go. And I think this is a very interesting innovation that's happening here in Korea. So please do go out and check Medium out, please. So what does the future hold, and how can you get involved with Hyperledger? So visit our home, go and look at hyperledger.org, go and look at our wiki. You can join as a company. Please, if you want to contribute and support and get more deeply involved in our community, everybody is welcome. You can volunteer. We have a discourse channel. We have a mailing list. We have a working group. We have continuous Zoom calls and YouTube. We're continually sharing that information. We have meetup groups. Please do get involved. You can always contact me. And has it got my name? Yes, I can see that. It's cut out there. But jgordon@apac.linux.com. So here is my LinkedIn. You can also connect to me by LinkedIn. So just scan the page there. I would like to say thank you for the Busan Blockchain Week for inviting me here to speak. I'd like to thank every contributor and everyone here that I've met, and I have been after not traveling, I have been so excited to meet people who are involved in the community. Many I've been Zooming. I go up to them and say, oh yes, I recognize you from the Zoom call. So it has been a pleasure being here, and I think I'm going to leave you here just about on time. And if anyone has any questions, I will be down here in a second. And I am now going to hand you over to our next, I think I'll pass you back and introduce the next esteemed speaker. Thank you. 감사합니다.
네, 하이퍼레저 파운데이션의 줄리안 고드님이었습니다. 진심으로 감사드립니다.